All right, well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hope everybody had a good lunch and are now looking forward to another time of study, and worship, and praise, and just getting to be together and have this time to have the Word in front of us. I'm looking forward to that. I was reading just the other day about a sweet old lady. Her name was Miss Edna. She was an 87-year-old, just petite little woman, and she ran a seamstress shop called Heaven's Little Alterations. She didn't have a storefront. She ran this out of her house. She didn't advertise with big signs and billboards. All she had was a sign taped to her living room window that said, "We fix pants and people." Miss Edna wasn't flashy. She wasn't on Instagram. She didn't have TikTok. But she had a gift, and she shared that gift with her community. Every time someone came in with ripped jeans, a ripped shirt, broken zipper, some fashion emergency, she would set them down, begin the alteration process, and they said she would feed you a cookie and ask about your problems. Those interviewed said that Miss Edna fixed a lot more than clothes. She patched hearts. She passed away, which is where I saw the article. She passed away peacefully at her home. And it was said that when she passed away, the town nearly shut down. At her funeral, there were more tears. This is what the article said. There were more tears than a Hallmark movie marathon. People stood up holding clothing that she had fixed. They were telling stories. The preacher got up to preach Miss Edna's funeral and began to tell people as an illustration about a woman named Dorcas and how she sewed clothes and did good for everyone, and then made this statement: Miss Edna was our Dorcas, just with more thread, more sass, and more cookies. The title for today's lesson is Being a Dorcas. Being a Dorcas. And this is in part based on a children's song. And I remember hearing this a long time ago, but I've honestly kind of forgot about it. But I was hearing this again, and it was a perfect time, and I was getting ready for this song. But there was a chorus of a children's song that went like this. It said, Shamgar had an ox goad, David had a sling, Samson had a jawbone, Rahab had a string, Mary had an ointment, Aaron had a rod, Dorcas had a needle, all were used for God. It's amazing to me just how often God uses ordinary things in our lives for His kingdom, which is a blessing because you think about this. How often do we sit around as Christians wondering, where do we fit in? Where do I belong? How do I help? What can I offer? What good can I really be? After all, I don't do the churchy things. I don't get up in a pulpit. I don't teach big classes. So really, I'm of no service to the kingdom. Okay. Then you don't know the story of Dorcas. Her story is truly amazing to study. From Acts chapter 9, if you're going to be turning there in your Bibles, Acts chapter 9. Because here is a woman who wasn't flashy, and yet her legacy still lives on. Have you ever heard of the Dorcas Society? And it's primarily women working together to serve and help do certain, a lot of things. And the society was named in honor of Dorcas. So I want to meet this incredible woman in Acts chapter 9, and I want to see what it means to be a Dorcas. Because please understand, this crosses over the line between Dorcas being a woman, man, it's about serving. How are we serving? Okay? And let's see what it means to be a Dorcas as we examine our lives today. Acts 9, verse 36, we're going to do like I do. We're just going to walk through the text and learn about her as we go throughout this text. Acts chapter 9, verse 36 says, At Joppa there was a certain disciple named Tabitha, which is translated Dorcas. This woman was full of good works and charitable deeds which she did. All right, there's something fascinating here in this verse. I want you to just listen just for a minute. Dorcas is specifically called a disciple. This is a pretty big moment because this is something that only really happens to her as a woman. Now, that's not to imply she's the only woman that was ever a disciple of Jesus Christ. That's not implying that. Plenty of women were called followers of Jesus. but she's the only one that is explicitly called a disciple of Jesus in that feminine tense. And that's the case because Luke is using this language very specifically when he's highlighting Dorcas to say everything that follows in her life from this moment on is in the light of the fact that she is a disciple of Jesus. Any work done, any effort undertaking, Dorcas did in light of the fact that she is a disciple. So she's an ordinary woman who made it her goal to learn about Jesus. Please understand something. Being a disciple doesn't just mean, I've heard people say this, it means, well, I'm a follower of Jesus. It means a lot more than a follower of Jesus. It means you're one who's learning in Jesus. You've learned the gospel. You're learning the scriptures. And she took that knowledge, combined it with the skills that she had, and she did it all to help other people. The verse here says she was full of good works and good deeds. Full, it's the, not to get into a Greek lesson, but it's the Greek word pleris. And what it means like a cup about to overflow. So you see people that play the game where you'll keep filling up a cup and you're trying to see who's going to be the one to make it overflow. And you got this water in the cup, and I mean, it's like mushrooming, about to leak, about to pour out. That's really what this is describing. It's so full, it's about to overflow. Meaning, it's not something she did, it's who she was. If you're curious, by the way, by Dorcas' name, you ought to write down James 1. Because this is exactly what James is talking about in James 1 when he starts describing this thing called pure and undefiled religion. And she gave her life to it. I mean, she gave her life to serving. Now, we learn something else about this woman. She's a Jew, but she also is very close to the Gentiles. We get that from her name. Her name is Tabitha. Tabitha is a very beautiful name. It's her Hebrew name. It's beautiful. Her name means gazelle. Now, some people look at that. What do you mean gazelle? It's not like somebody's calling you a goat. It's a graceful name. In fact, it's such a beautiful name. We see it used 2 times in the Song of Solomon when it's describing this woman, this wife in the Song of Solomon, Tabitha. But then Luke, instead of transliterating it, Tabitha, into something that sounds like Tabitha in the Greek, he translates it. He translates it from Tabitha to Dorcas. Dorcas in the Greek means gazelle. He actually just translates it. And the thing is, it's not just a translation. She's known by the name Dorcas. Some know her as Tabitha, some know her as Dorcas. She lives in Joppa, which means she lives in a blended culture. Joppa was a port town. We know Joppa from the story of Jonah. Jonah flees to Joppa. He's trying to get away. And so this area is prominent with both Jews and Gentiles. Cultural mixes here. And she crosses over all those lines and didn't apparently care about any of it. Whether you knew her as Tabitha or you knew her as Dorcas. And again, if you're curious, that's what ministry really looks like. Where you're not worried about all that. You're just worried about serving because you're a disciple. She loved, she cared, she acted, she served. So, actually, I found these side by side. I mentioned that earlier this morning about, you can be a good lawyer and not love your client. Well, at the same time, I found this other one. I'm like, man, that fits Dorcas perfectly. So, it's actually a blessing. I got 2 for 1 here. But the rest of that poem that I was reading said this, and this applies to Dorcas. I thought it really fit this idea better. It says, if a person were a soldier, they might be expected to fight. If a person were a rider, they might be expected to ride. So there's a fallacy in the logic that's missing in the ring for a person to be a Christian and not do a thing. See, I think there are a lot of Christians that miss their calling because they don't know where they fit in. Because as Christians, we are called to good works. And listen, I'm not saying this to pick on you guys, because I look around the room, I see people that do a lot of stuff. And this is more of a generalized lesson, okay? Don't feel like I'm trying to attack you here. In fact, there are a lot of you in this room I rely so heavily on for stuff. And I don't think I thank y'all enough for all that you do. I know the elders are always good when they get up and speak. They almost start off always by thanking everybody for what they're doing and just the effort everybody's putting in. And so don't take this like I'm trying to pick on y'all here. But Dorcas, because of her faith, overflowed in good works. And you go, my goodness, though, what incredible thing did she do? I mean, it has to be something major. I mean, surely she was able to come up with like a life-saving surgery that altered history. Or what amazing thing was she able to do? She sewed clothing. That's what she did. She sewed clothing. She took what she knew how to do and she did it for the Lord. So the first thing we learn here is Dorcas was faithful. But then we see something about Dorcas' life, the impact of her life, that Dorcas was grieved. We look at verse 37. It happened in those days that she became sick and died. When they had washed her, they laid her in the upper room. Now this sounds like a simple verse. There's actually kind of some oddities in this verse here. The language is implying Dorcas fell sick very suddenly. It was unexpected that she died. Okay? And nothing is mentioned here as to how old she was. We don't know if she was married. We don't know if she had kids. We really know nothing about her. Just that as good as she was, she got sick and she died. By the way, there's a life lesson here that can be a tough pill to swallow, that just because we have faith doesn't mean we won't face the same things. That's the result of the world that we live in. Yet we can go through them with joy because we know where our eternal home is. We were born twice, which means we die once. So we don't have that same fear. But in Dorcas' story, something odd happens here. So they take her body and they wash her body. That's not uncommon. That's what you would expect. The women especially did that for women. Women would primarily do it for men too, but you'd have men more involved with men. But this is not uncommon. It gets odd when they say they take her body and put her up in the upper room. That makes no sense. That doesn't even fit their custom. That's not their culture. So when the Jews died, they were buried the same day. I mean, you were basically put somewhere, they prepared your body, they wrapped you up, and you were put in a grave before the sun went down. There was no, a couple of days to prepare the body, then a good day or two for a funeral service. It was you were buried the same day, and then that began the 7-day mourning period. We take it more of a 7-day preparation to bury somebody and then be back to work on day 8. They would go into heavy mourning after this. So my question is, why would they put her in an upper room and completely start doing things separate from what their culture would have been? Listen, they're so distraught by this. Her impact and legacy was so much. They have to do something. They can't just let her be buried. And so you see they're starting to devise this plan now. Verse 38 says, Lydda was near Joppa. You go, why does Lydda matter? Well, the disciples had heard that Peter was in Lydda. So they sent 2 men to him, imploring him not to delay in coming to them. Now we see the delay. Now you're starting to see why they're not preparing her body for burial. They're preparing her body for some miracle. They're not letting her go. So they've set her up, they've prepared her body, now they're trying to get Peter over here. Lydda from Joppa is around 9 miles. Depending on how the route you'd go, it could be 8 to 9 miles, okay? You're walking this. You figure average walking 3 miles an hour. You're going to spend a good 3 hours getting there, a good 3 hours getting back. Plus you have to find Peter. You have to convince him to come back with you. You're going to lose quite a bit of time. Which means you're pushing on into day 2 now. So you're not burying her on day 1 in fact, if you go to Deuteronomy 21, says you should bury them before nightfall, before the day's over. But if Peter comes, then he can raise her from the dead. So, we understand what they want. Okay? Because of her impact, they want her back. But do we ever, I find humor in this, so just bear with me for a minute. Do we ever look at this from Dorcas' stance, by the way? Could you imagine this from her stance? There's somebody I feel very sorry for in the Bible, and it's almost counterintuitive to what you might think. You know one of the people I feel the most sorry for in the Bible? Lazarus. Could you imagine, just think about him. Lazarus, you're in the Middle East. Okay, I know there are nice parts in the Middle East, but it's not the greatest place in the world to be. You die, you go to paradise, you're enjoying your eternal reward in paradise, and you're just, hanging out with prophets and talking, whatever you're doing there, and then you yank right back to the Middle East. Just kidding. You're going to come do this all over again. Now we know Jesus did that to show his power over death, because he raised after 4 days. We see that power here. But Dorcas is the same way. She dies. Guess where she is? She's a faithful Christian. She's in paradise. She went on to her reward, and it's just a great blessing to her to go on to her reward. But the people are grieving so much, they want her back. Now, I would ask this question. Based on what we see here, do you think God got his timing wrong? Because see, it's us that grieves, right? We mourn, it's a part of life, we know it well, especially when it's a faithful servant that we care so much about, young and old alike. I mean, we're grieving. Brother Bob, we're missing Brother Bob. Great guy. He was an incredible influence to me this last year. I mean, when we get to the service on Tuesday, they're saying, we want to be kind of brief. Like, I've got so much to talk about from him for the last year, I don't know that I can be brief. But I don't want him back. That would be selfish on my part. I mean, he ran his race, and he got his reward. But still, the selfish side of me goes, well, I wouldn't mind having him back. That's how we process these things. But everything that happened was perfectly according to God's will. We don't speed up God's timeline. We don't slow down God's timeline, even when we don't understand what's happened. The question for us here is this, and this is important. Are we using our gifts from God in a way that we're missed when we're gone? Is our legacy such that people will miss us when we're gone? Were we those faithful servants that exhausted every ounce of effort that we could? I know Dorcas certainly did. And listen, I'm very blessed. I know a few Dorcases in my life that have died that I'm very grateful for. My grandmother was one of them. I loved her example. She was always trying to do, but I've known a few like that. And so they can't let go of her. They want her back. So the two men, they make the 9-mile journey to Lydda. And they do, in fact, find Peter there. So it's kind of working out pretty good. And whatever they say, they're clearly convincing to Peter, because verse 39, Peter rose and he went with them. He's going to go back with them to Joppa. And when he had come, they brought him straight to the upper room. They'd taken him right to Dorcas. And all the widows stood there by him. They're weeping. They're showing the tunics and garments which Dorcas had made while she was with them. Now, we know what these widows are after, right? We've deduced this already. They want Dorcas raised from the dead. That's their goal in this. And there's certainly a precedent for it, because Jesus did it. The apostles have done it. So they understand this. Now, Peter makes the journey with the two men. He comes to the house. He goes straight to the upper room, and it's just full of mourners. And we know something about this because Jesus dealt with this when he was dealing with Jairus' daughter. Do you remember he comes into the house of Jairus, and the professional mourners are there. And they're wailing and crying, and Jesus puts them out of the house. And they're laughing as he's kicking them out of the house. But see, those were professional mourners. That's part of the Jewish custom. That's not the case here with Dorcas. This is different. These women knew Dorcas and had a relationship with Dorcas. We know that because when Peter comes in, they don't just go, well, we're here to mourn, Peter. Just give us a few minutes. We've got 7 days of this. As soon as Peter walks in, they start showing all his clothes. Look at what she made for us. She fixed this for me. She was a great woman. They're just showing her this. And so they had a relationship with her. And this moves Peter because of what he does next. So Dorcas was faithful. Dorcas was grieved. Now we learn something pretty interesting. Dorcas was resurrected. Again, I kind of wish we had part of the story from her side to see her view of all of this. But I want you to notice something Peter does, and I find this pretty interesting because it's almost backwards from what we might think. Verse 40, Peter put them all out, and he knelt down and prayed, and turning to the body, he said, Tabitha, arise. And she opened her eyes, and when she saw Peter, she sat up. Do you notice how calm Peter is during all of this? He's not rushing. He's not shouting. He didn't put on a big performance in front of this crowd. He didn't do... Just for a show one time, I thought it'd be fun. I won't take my jacket off and just start swinging and see if I can get people to fall down. Now, you've seen people like this, right? But he sends the people out. He said, everybody get out. And he spoke to Tabitha like we would talk to each other right now. People have always, and it's even done so in like TV shows and movies. How do you see it depicted that Jesus called Lazarus out of the tomb? When you see movies, you see all this stuff about Lazarus. It's Jesus kind of standing outside and he's shouting, Lazarus, come! He's shouting. The text just says he spoke it. Lazarus, come forth. So here's Peter. Now understand, Tabitha, Dorcas, she's gone. That's a shell. That's not her anymore. She's gone. And he just kneels down and says it like it's nothing. Tabitha, arise. That's it. Tabitha, arise. Now, question I have is, why would you send the people out? If you're trying to really invoke faith and pump everybody up, I mean, just get them on cloud nine, get them fired up. Why not let them watch the show? Hey, listen, y'all hang back. You're going to see something pretty amazing. It's going to blow your minds. They'll learn the lesson from seeing her resurrected. They get them out of the way because that's more of an intimate moment. And so they're going to leave the room because it's not going to be some spectacle. The proof of the power of God is her resurrection. Now, I will say this. I was reading some interesting stuff on this where it said that faith healers today say that Peter missed a golden opportunity. Golden opportunity. Because you could have wowed everybody. You know, that's what a lot of this is about now. It's about large crowds, a spectacle. Look, I healed this person in a wheelchair. Okay, they weren't really hurt. Did you hear the one, by the way, a few years ago, the guy that supposedly raised the man from the dead? Did y'all see that? That was in the news. He raised the guy from the dead. It was somewhere in Africa. I can't remember. Anyway, I can't remember where it was. But he raised him from the dead. And then about a week later, it was all proven that it was fake. And then they interviewed the guy and said, well, I didn't know he wasn't dead. Do you ever wonder why these people that claim to be faith healers never go to hospitals? I talked to a guy, and y'all have heard me say this before. I've got a friend of mine. He is of a denominational church that believes in that you can still heal. People that have the power of healing. And he and I were talking, and I offended him, and I wasn't trying to offend him, but I offended him very much. And I said, well, then he's the sorriest person of all. If he really has that gift, because this is when I was still in Mississippi, they live north Mississippi. He's like, yeah, he has the ability to heal, but I said, he's the sorriest person of all. Because he has at one time gone to LeBonner Hospital in Memphis and healed all those kids with cancer. And until you can do that, be quiet. Stop trying to put on some show. Now, Peter, I like this too. Peter, when you think Peter through the Gospels, do you think calm, cool, calm, and collected? Or do you think Peter, you think pretty animated, yanking swords around, cutting off ears? He's a fisherman, he's bad aim, he's trying to cut off heads. You got an ear instead. Malchus was probably pretty happy about that. It was just an ear. But you normally think Peter, you think animated. He's the opposite of what we think on cool, calm, and collected. But you can see now how much he's grown. Of course, now he's filled with the Holy Spirit. But just like Jairus' daughter, do you notice the similarities here? What did Jesus tell Jairus' daughter? Daughter, arise. That's it. No long spiel. He didn't speak 20 minutes. Daughter, arise. Now, it is interesting. Peter, he kneels down. He prays, and then just speaks, Tabitha, arise. Tabitha, get up. Do you understand the power of that statement? Because let me tell you how accustomed we are now to miracles in the Bible. We'll hear something like this and go, that's nice. He raised from the dead. Now, we're not going to get into a lot of graphic detail here, but if this is day 2, which it's likely you didn't travel at night. So it's likely day 2 now. Do you know what the body's doing at day 2 when you haven't been embalmed? I mean, it's kind of nasty. There's nothing pleasant about it. Organs have shut down, just a lot of, Basically, your body now filled with poison. So when you say, Tabitha, arise, you've now called her spirit back from paradise, back into her body. You've kick-started every organ. You've removed the poison. You have done an unbelievable amount of miracles within the one that's called resurrection and brought her back to life. And he does it just by saying, Tabitha, arise. Just get up. It's incredible. Those blow me away. Just like Jesus speaking to the sea. I'll get on tangents on this. When he tells the sea to just be still. And then the Bible says it was calm as glass. Well, he's like, oh, he stopped the wind. Like, no, he stopped the water. Because it's a lake. It should be sloshing for a while. It just stopped. Everything stopped. These miracles are amazing. But again, I do wish that we could have interviewed Dorcas after this and got her statement. Like, hey, Dorcas, we always got interviewers there after something major happens. Dorcas, tell us how you feel. Like, I was hanging out with prophets. I guess job was nice this time of year, but I was in paradise, Now, the question for my mind is this for Peter. If you're Peter, you're a faithful man, you're an apostle. You know all of this already. You know where Dorcas is. Why would you bring her back? Has she not ran her race? You would think she's received her crown of righteousness tonight. Why would you call her back from that? Unless it's for a bigger purpose. And you're going to see as you keep going, there is in fact a bigger purpose. Verse 41, then he gave her his hand, and he lifted her up, and when he had called the saints and widows, he presented her alive. And listen to verse 42. And it became known throughout all of Joppa, and many believed on the Lord. Now, does it say that it became known throughout all of Joppa, and everybody was going around celebrating and high-fiving? No, it said many believed on the Lord. So there's the effect. So just like Lazarus, Peter did have a reason for what he was doing. Her story impacted the hearts of those that she helped for many years. Now her resurrection sends a wave throughout the region. Because they knew her, they knew her faith, they knew the resurrection. So people saw her alive and they believed the Lord because of it. In life and death and life again, she honors God. She's an incredible story. Now, we know the end of Dorcas' story, right? She dies again. She did. We actually have to be even careful when we use the term she was resurrected. Because when the Bible talks about us, when we get to the resurrection, we're resurrected into our new bodies. She was more so restored to her old body. She's back in her old body. She's going to die again. But as a faithful Christian, her legacy in serving others lives on still to this day. We're still talking about her. Now, here's the question I want us to think about. And this is where I really want this to get personal. I'm going to spend a few minutes here, okay? Does your life look like Dorcas's? Or Tabitha, I don't care what you call it. Does your life reflect her? Not in that you're necessarily a woman. Not in that you need to move to Joppa. Not in that you need to die and be resurrected. It literally speaks of it. Does our life look like Dorcas in that we are a faithful disciple of the Lord? So much so that this is how you're known by others. Using what we have to help us. Let me tell you my hope for myself, and then you can decide how you do with it with yourself. I do not want to be remembered as Justin, the employee of Lindy, where I work. And this is going to shock you, okay? I don't want to be remembered as Justin, the minister. I want to be known as Justin, the disciple of Jesus Christ, who because he loved Jesus ministered. That's what I hope my story is going to be. Now, I won't know. My story will be left behind when I'm gone. I don't know what that'll be. But again, the power of Dorcas' story, even in a resurrection, it wasn't that she was the first, it wasn't that she was the last. Her legacy is in taking what she was able to do. How many of you would view, and you can raise your hands, how many of you would view sowing as a form of discipleship, kind of as something not wowing? Just kind of, I wouldn't even call it base. Just something kind of, it's just kind of an average, I sew, you know. Or I cook. People, they'll cook meals and go, well, I just cook. Okay, hey, good. I like to eat. It's perfect. Or I'm good at sewing. Hey, great. I tear up clothing. This is perfect. Point is, she took what she could do and used it fully for the Lord. 100% what she could do. All she had, all she was able to do, she did to the Lord, and that legacy impacted everyone that she came into contact with, so much so that when she died, the only thing that would suffice is she has to be resurrected. Are we living that Dorcas kind of life? Now the next question would be why? Why would we care? Well, that ties back in this morning. We care because of faith and love. She didn't do all of this, and this is a great testament to Dorcas' story here. She didn't do all of this because she needed many good works by her name. Well, I need to fix this. I need more good works beside my name. I don't. When I get to heaven, I don't want them to pull the book of life up, look, and go, you only did about 40 really good things. You should have had at least 45 in the years that you had. And that first statement you learn about Dorcas tells you everything you need to know. She was a disciple. She did all of this because of that. She loved the Lord. She was redeemed by the Lord. And everything she did was in light of the fact that she was a disciple. So I pray that if you haven't already, I pray that you will find your Dorcas ministry. However you serve, however you can find to serve, every one of you has something to offer. And it's different. Every one of ours are different. You go, well, I don't have anything to offer the church, Justin. I don't speak like you do. I can't get up and speak in front of everyone. Okay, great. I can't sew. I'm not a very good cook. I'm not that handy when it comes to carpentry. Brother Parker, he can run circles around me. And I can do some things. There's areas where I'm not as good as what you're good at. But I have my ministry. And you have your ministry. Whatever those are, we take those and we use them to serve the Lord however we can. And whatever it looks like. It's our way of serving. I don't care what you call it. You don't have to call it a ministry. You call it whatever you want to call it. This is my way of serving. God gave me the desire to do this. I'm going to do it. And you do it because you love the Lord and you love people. Loving the Lord and being in the Lord are the first steps to that Dorcas life. And what you do with those things, that's the legacy. So I do hope that you can look at this and reflect on this question. Does your life look like Dorcas? And answer that for yourself. Now understand, your life can't look like Dorcas if you're not first a disciple. So, I never want to make an assumption when I look at a room, even though I know most people. I believe the majority of you are Christians. But if you have a need today, the invitation is going to be yours. You respond however you need to respond. Because sometimes, even as Christians, we need this encouragement. So I'm not belittling that point. But I encourage you, if you not spend time in prayer, spend time in reflection, and figure out, what did God give me that I can serve? You know what God gave some of you that you can serve with? A good attitude. Do you know how much just having some of the good attitude brightens your day and cheers people up? Versus every time I talk to Marshall, he comes in, he just looks like he's been sucking on a lemon all day. I mean, we all have different things. And so I'm not going to belabor the point. But the point is, you have something to offer the kingdom. You have something that God gave you to be valuable to His kingdom. And I pray that you'd seek and you'd find that. And if you have a need this afternoon, as Marshall comes, he's going to lead us in the invitation song. Whatever's on your heart, if you have a need, I encourage you to come. As together we stand and we sing.
All things are ready. Come to the feast.